Sports has just been fantastic lately. Folks, welcome to the Sportsline Podcast here on CHCH. I'm Bubba O'Neill. Nowhere in this country are people just like you starving for sports content, especially when it pertains to local athletes, teams, and executives. Today, we're right back on that OHL playoff train with a team that are serious contenders for the prestigious Bobby Orr Trophy. After claiming the season series over the North Bay Battalion 3-1, those Brantford Bulldogs were somewhat pushed but eventually dismissed the troops in 5 games to move on to the OHL Eastern Conference semifinals. In that fifth and deciding contest, which was won 5-1, local hockey fans in the Bell City enjoyed a taste of the Bulldogs' league-leading 71-goal scorer.
I see shirts, I see lunch boxes. Brown through the middle of the ice. Thomas back to Lardis. One-timer. Scores! Nick Lardis! Toss him if you got him. It's a rocket.
Well, the Bulldogs are moving on to round 2, but to reach the East Final, they'll have to dispose of last season's Eastern Conference champions, the Oshawa Generals. To tee up that series, that begins real soon in Brantford. Let's bring in the Bulldogs Director of Broadcasting and Communications, the voice of the team, Mr. Reed Duthie. How are you, partner?
Doing great, Bob. It's great to see you. I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I'm a little bit under the weather. Great timing for this, but I don't want to pass this on to anybody. I'm gonna make it in for game 1, and then it's right back to hot tea and lemon.
Well, hey, and that's this time of year. You just put in, 68 games of the regular season, and of course that was a very, very exciting first-round playoff series. Your thoughts on the series itself against North Bay?
North Bay is a really well-built team, Bubba. When you look at what they've managed to accomplish with Adam Dennis, John Winstanley, Ryan Olahan, they're very committed to a structured game. And in that sense, they look a lot like the Brantford Bulldogs. They came in very young, 3 OAs, 1 05, and then everybody else was 06 or younger. They're a team that went to 3 straight Eastern Conference finals. Not going to be long before they're right back in that conversation. And when you see what they did at the trade deadline, bringing in the likes of Adrian Manzo and Capagridis and so many young players, Parker Vaughn, Shamar Moses, even before that they were able to add to their young core. They're going to be really, really good, really, really quick. They turned that around on a fly, like what Matt Turek did for the Bulldogs a couple years ago when he brought Nick Lardis over from the Peterborough Petes. So they were a tough out. Plus Mike McIver. He and Ryerson Leanders put on a spectacular goaltending duel more nights than not in that first-round series. It was really a treat to get to watch.
What did you like about the Bulldogs and their resilience in this series? I thought every game was maybe a little bit closer than maybe the score would kind of indicate.
Well, I think their commitment to battle through, and that goes back to Jay McKee, Ryan Kuwabara, Vince Lace behind the bench. They just always have a fight in them. And even when they got down, the game they lost in game 4, they got down 2 and they kept fighting back. And North Bay, to their credit, was determined not to go out in front of their home fans. And they kept on coming back after that. But the Bulldogs never quit. They never got out of that game. And when you saw the rest of the series, even when Mike McIver was standing on his head, when LeBlanc and Ride were really giving that top line a tough go, they just kept on fighting. And Jay McKee and Vince Lace put a line together of Noah Nelson between Calvin Crombie and Dylan Tashurna. And it goes Tashurna left, Nelson middle, Crombie right. My broadcast partner, Troy Islikars, nicknamed them TNC, Take No Captain. And that's exactly the way they played in round 1. That was a big reason, and it takes you back to Matt Stroll, Mackenzie Entwistle, Isaac Nurse, Mark Duarte, John Mishak, George Diaco, these really high-energy third lines that the Bulldogs have had on runs in the past. They needed offense out of that group. They got it in round 1. Not going to get any easier, but that's the kind of line that helps you advance on. And if they're going to continue to advance on, they'll need that line to replicate the success they had against North Bay.
With that said, what does need to improve then? What did you maybe not like that you're saying that, what Coach Jay McKee's probably identified and probably worked on through practice this week?
Yeah, he's all over it. And I think it was attention to detail. At times, I think it got a little bit away from them. Maybe one pass too many, trying to set up the perfect play, as opposed to where they had success in the season, which was get pucks in, get them down low, work low to high, open up shooting lanes. You don't always have to run everything through Mr. 71, although it does help. But you can make plays off of teams overcommitting onto him. And then when they leave him open, well, there you have it. So I think in getting back to the success they had through the second half of the season especially is what's really going to help them. And you're right, Jay had already identified that long before it even would have occurred to me. So I think that the Bulldogs will be in good shape going into this second round.
Well, you look at your opponents, the Oshawa Generals, who I thought had a real good second half, and they defeated Brampton in 6 games. And what do they got? What do the Bulldogs have to look out for in terms of that Gens team?
Oh, high-end offense. And it's not just up front. Callum Ritchie, obviously, Colby Barlow, Beckett Seneca, if healthy. He, like Adam Yedicek for the Bulldogs, missed a couple of games in the first round. But those guys can bring it. Owen Griffin is stepping up. There's an 07 on his way to the NHL draft who is going to be taken lower than he should be, very likely, unless this playoff hopefully wakes people up. We saw him in the prospects game. He's fantastic, and I think he should be getting a lot more buzz than he is right now. But he's really stepped his way forward. On the back end, Luca Morelli. This kid should probably be playing at the next level already. If he wasn't an 05 that had to come back to the OHL, he could have success in the AHL right now. He's big, he's strong, he's offensively gifted, he can play both ends of the rink. He is a lot of fun to watch, and he's the guy the Bulldogs are going to have to keep real close eyes on. And the Generals loaded up at the deadline. They brought in Andrew Gibson, big, strong, physical defenseman that's got an offensive side to him. Simon Wang is there coming up out of the OJHL, another big, strong, physical player that right away had looks at the first round of the NHL draft and rankings. So they're going to have to be careful. Offensively gifted, they're a deep roster, and they got a veteran goaltender in Jacob Oster who's been here and done this before. Bulldogs have their work cut out for them.
You obviously have called every game, especially the ones at home. Your thoughts of the season series with the Generals?
Bulldogs had a really good season series with Oshawa, 6-2 overall, and the reasons why were they capitalized when the opportunities arose for them. Power plays especially. Oshawa takes a lot more penalties than the Bulldogs do, and the Bulldogs were able to roll that number 1 unit out, and during the season, Oshawa's special teams were midline. Now, in the playoffs, they've greatly improved that, and with their veteran presence, you'd have to expect it was coming. But the Bulldogs, if they can replicate the success in the regular season with the special teams, have a really good shot in this series to advance on. Again, not going to be easy, but they have that opportunity. Ryerson Leanders was great in the season series against the Generals. Plus, you add in Marek Van Acker and Adam Yedicek, who weren't available for the first half of the 8-game season series, and Yedicek actually more than that with injuries throughout the season. But they added 2 first-round draft picks into their lineup as the season went along. That really helps you when you're going up talent for talent and trying to go depth for depth with a team that's just as deep, just as talented as you are.
I was actually impressed at the fact that Jay McKee made it a point in a lot of his media availabilities to talk about the strength of not only his hockey team, but his home crowd. It really has been a difference going to the Madhouse on Market Street, has it not?
Oh, without a doubt. It's a different atmosphere. It's an old Coliseum style. If you haven't been to it, it's got that track around the bottom. And what that does is it raises that first row up. So they're almost over top of you right where the stands begin. And having been to every arena in the league, they are the loudest. It's 3,200, doesn't matter. They are the loudest fans around the league, and they let the opposition know. They're hanging over the tunnels. They're up on the glass. They're doing everything that they can to make them know that you are here, you are in our building, and you got to go through our guys. And the Bulldogs feed off that. There's no doubt. There's a reason that this team, through 2 seasons in Brantford, has been so good at home. And when that home crowd gets behind them, it's a really tough force to stop. They weren't defeated in the first round on home ice. Now, Oshawa 3-0 on the road in round 1. So that sets up a fun matchup.
Here's the thing when I look at this team, and I mean, you talk about, Brantford hockey fans being able to see the Bulldogs which is, I'm going to call them a special team. You and I have obviously, and you've been a part of 2 special teams with the Bulldogs, and I'm just going to go back to the 2022 team. When I think of the likes of Logan Morrison and Mason McTavish and Avery Hayes and Staios and Jack-Eye on the back end, that was a crazy team that seemed to me that had endless offense. I feel like this team, Reed, is just on par with those same names that I've called. I know, and that's a team that went to the Memorial Cup, so maybe I'm pushing it a bit, but boy, this team has incredible potential.
Yeah, they're constructed a little bit differently. When you look at Patrick Thomas centering, Nick Lardis and Cole Brown, then you've got Jake O'Brien with Merrick Van Ackern. We've seen Testa, we've seen Rosetta, we've seen Avery all pop into that unit. Then there's that TNC unit, and it starts to remind you of the depth of that 22 team. Now, obviously some special cases. Mason McTavish probably shouldn't have been in the OHL that year. He probably should have been in the National Hockey League. Arbor Jacki could have stayed at the next level, got another year of seasoning under his belt. Do you have those kind of transcendent talents? I think we're going to find out in this playoff run. But when you look at Kammer, Jacki, Steos Grushnikov, White, Van Vliet, Donovan as that group of 7, now you've got Hamra Budnik, Protz Juracek, DiPlacido, Moore, Krimpatic, Radley. It's younger, but you've got 4 NHL draft picks. You got another couple of guys who are on the road to being NHL draft picks on that back end. I think there's reason for that optimism, and Ryerson Leanders is as good of a goaltender as we've seen in this team's history. And I know I'm putting him up there, Caden Fulcher champion, Marco Cosentini champion, but numbers for numbers, skill for skill, we haven't had a better goaltender than Ryerson Leanders, and that can give you a boost because, as you and I both know, Bubba, when a goalie gets hot on a playoff run, it's incredibly hard to stop them.
And the best thing is that there's a solid backup there as well.
Oh, David Egorov was brilliant during the regular season. If not for a freaky injury, again, you're talking about another guy who, in save percentage, was amongst the high-end group of starters in the league. His record was amongst the highest group in terms of win percentage in games played. Yeah, there's no letdown there. You've got Ryerson Leanders 1, David Egorov 1A. If anything were to happen to Leanders, and knock on wood it doesn't, but you've got David Egorov right behind him, and that's the best tandem the Bulldogs have had. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
Hey, just going into this game 1 of this round 2 series, there was great news earlier this week, and Patrick Thomas has got to be a very inspired young man.
You talk about a guy who was undeniable, Bubba. He arrived on the team and didn't make it his first go-around. Gets on the team because of an injury to Ryan Winterton. By the midway point of that season, Ryan Winterton and Mason McTavish are asking if they could have that guy on his line. Then he forms the partnership with Nick Lardis. We know what happens there. He becomes the 8th captain in team history. He's a champion. He's the franchise's all-time leading scorer, and he's finally signed to the Washington Capitals. This kid's heart will not let him fail. And I think he's going to be a success at the next level simply because of that. The hockey IQ is there. The skills are there. But the heart is the difference maker for Patrick Thomas. He has been a pleasure to get to cover over his time with the Bulldogs. It's going to be a real sad day when we see 93 leave for the final time. He's put his face on Mount Rushmore for the Bulldogs, and we're all really, really proud of what he's done.
He's so deserved of the praise. And Reed, when you sent out the press release about him becoming the Bulldogs' all-time leading scorer, like, I got to admit, I scratched my head a little bit thinking of the guys that were in that top 5 list. But Patrick Thomas is just kind of, he's done it in his own different kind of way. But it's been effective.
It sure has. Yeah, Morrison, Kaliev, Strome, champions that he's passed and gone by, captains that he's passed and gone by. And he started off as sort of that quiet, unassuming player. When he was with Winterton and McTavish, he was kind of the third guy, and he would get left open because you got to cover the 2 NHL draft picks. Well, as time went on, people realized he's the straw that stirs the drink. We better get a guy on him. Well, easier said than done. The hockey IQ is at such an elite level that he can find dead spaces on the ice, and when the puck's on his stick, there's nothing he can't do with it. So I think people take that quiet, unassuming nature of Patrick Thomas and think, well, he's not really a threat. He might be the biggest threat on the ice.
Well, any thoughts about the other series with the Windsor Spitfires, which I think is just going to be dynamite?
Oh, jeez. Get a lunchbox, get your work boots. That series is going to be a battle. I think that one goes 7. When you look at Windsor and Kitchener, those are 2 teams that they match up so well against one another that could go on and on and on. I think Jackson Parsons in the Kitchener net is a difference maker. But how that Kitchener defense is going to handle the size and the strength of Protas, of Greentree, of Morneau, of Spellacy, I could go on and on. The Spitfires are a dangerous club. Bill Bowler, credit to him. 2022 in the finals with the Bulldogs, turned that thing on the fly. They're right back there at the top of the Western Conference.
Yeah, I look at all the other three series, and I'm just like, that one just stands out to me that I'm like, that is going to be dynamite hockey, and you just can't predict a winner. I think what we need to establish here, Reed, is where can we listen to you? Where can we hear you? Obviously, when this was the Hamilton Bulldogs, there was the Cable 14 connection. Things have changed a little bit, but as this team gets, into a serious postseason playoff contention, obviously people are going to be jumping on the bandwagon. So if you can't make it down to the Civic Center, where can we contact you and keep in contact with the Bulldogs?
It's no shortage of options now, thanks to the advent of so many of the technologies. There's the CHL TV streaming service and app, Rogers TV 20, which carries all the games. And we usually go to channel 430 or 368, depending on your box, which is live nationwide when the Bulldogs go on the air. It's a neat little tool that we found in the toolbox. Cable 14 will have Friday nights and all elimination games. And of course, on the Bulldogs website, I've got the call of every game, voice permitting, on the Bulldogs audio network. So it's all available right there. Everybody can hop on. Fans in Hamilton have still been so great. I know the numbers on Cable 14 have still been incredible. Fans in Brantford obviously have embraced this team as their own. We love having everybody. Big Tent, as big as possible.
Well, we want to make sure that you've got a great voice for the next three periods tonight, Reed. We're really looking forward to this. The Bulldogs are the hottest thing going right now, and much is expected of them. And I know they expect that of themselves. But, boy, it's been exciting to see what they did in the regular season, and to see them in the postseason contention is so, so exciting. And, of course, you'll have all the action, as we just talked about there. Enjoy the series. Enjoy the experience. I know you always do, and you represent real well. So thanks for joining us on the Sportsline Podcast.
Always a pleasure, Bubba. Anytime for you, and I wouldn't know how to do it any other way than having fun.
Right on, my friend. Thanks for joining us. That's your Sportsline Podcast for the day. And if you've just seen and heard, we love talking local sports. So be sure to get out to the Madhouse on Market Street for some exciting OHL postseason hockey. Friends, if you do know of an athlete, team, or event to promote the Sportsline Podcast, we want to hear from you. Please hit that thumbs up, like, and subscribe button. And if you have something to say, we always appreciate your comments. For the outstanding people that make the Sportsline Podcast possible, thank you so very much. And we'll see you tomorrow.